What's up, everyone? Welcome to Get Lifted Podcast. My name is Jonathan. This is episode 1 of interviews, and I'm beyond grateful to have Austin on today. And what a better way to start it than with my own sponsor.
What's up?
So, welcome, Austin. How are we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you, man. So we'll get right to business. We can start with what's your sobriety date?
March 22nd, 2018 is my date. So I'm like a year ahead of you, I think, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And you're a March baby too, right? You're March 4.
No,
I should know
January.
this. Oh, you're January?
Birthday, March, baby, sobriety.
Yeah, I'm talking about your sobriety date.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
March,
yeah, yeah. We're
right?
both on March 3rd.
Yeah. Okay. I should know your date offhand as your sponsor. I don't.
I should know yours too, but it's all right.
You know what? It's okay. I'm not that important. You're not that important. We're just
Exactly.
vessels, right?
Exactly. That's amazing. Yeah, so it's cool. So I'll be coming up on 5 years and you're coming up on 6 years.
I know. I'm old, man. 6
See,
years. It's crazy.
time
You know, I was
flies.
speaking at a meeting. Um, I was doing an H&I thing, um, which is hospitals and institutions for people that are watching this that don't know. And I was at a rehab, and somebody said, "That's why you got to listen to the old timers like Austin." And I said, "Fuck you! I'm not an old timer."
Seriously, what? Yeah.
Like
I think that's
crazy.
a interesting thing to talk about. And to set the groundwork for this conversation quick, this topic is I actually remember speaking. So, how old were you when you got sober?
I was 19, so it was a week before I turned 20.
Wow.
I actually know it was 2 weeks because it was March 22nd. My birthday is April 7th. Um, and I had lost everything by the time that I was 19. I had a very hard, very quick bottom. I started drugging and using the alcohol when I was 12, no, 12, 14. And within 5 years, I literally burned everything to the ground. Um, So, you know, some people have slower, longer bottoms, and I had a very quick plummet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing for this beginning topic because a funny thing, just to set the groundwork for everyone else that doesn't know, that I remember speaking when I first got any sobriety. I think I got like 6, 7 months. And I spoke at a place where you were at the time, the rehab facility, sober living house in Danbury.
Oh,
Um,
so the sobering center?
Yeah, and then so the funny thing is, you're 10 years younger than me, so I think that's important for people to know that, anyone can help anyone. It has nothing to do with age. It's really spiritual awareness because I remember then when you got sober, I was relapsing over and over again, and it was suggested to me by one of your sponsor at the time. Why don't you talk to
Doc.
this kid Austin? Yeah, and he was like, I was like, what is this kid that's 19 gonna tell me about my life after 12 years of drug addiction, half his life? And by the grace of God, I always tell people, like, how you helped save my life. So I'd love to have you touch on a little getting sober young because I think you could reach a lot of people with your story. You know,
Yeah, man.
what
I
was it
mean,
like getting sober young?
yep. I mean, it's been a trip for sure. It's funny that we're talking on the medium of a podcast right now because, like, one thing that the meetings have taught me more than anything is public speaking. So it's very natural. But yeah, I mean, it's a better way of living ultimately. I didn't have a choice when I got sober. I was messing around with heroin, and that's something that I was doing heroin back when heroin was heroin. that's that's how old I feel now because it's not anymore. It's all fentanyl,
Mhm.
and it killed all of my friends.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I didn't have a choice. When I got sober, I had nothing left in my life. I had no money. I had no property that I could rent or sell or anything like that to be able to, score. I had nothing left. And pretty much as soon as I got sober, all my friends started dying from fentanyl. Um, just the way it was. So it's one of those things where I've never looked at my sobriety as an option for me. Um, that being said, like my 20s, which I'm 25 now, have been so much better for me than my teen years when I was abused, stuff like that. I've done some crazy cool things in my sobriety, world traveler, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's a different way of living ultimately, and it's a better way of living for me, you know. If you're thinking about getting sober young and you're listening to this podcast, I've got news for you. If you're thinking about it, then you're probably at the point where you need to probably do something about it. Because, normal people, not like me and John over here, aren't like sitting around being like, maybe I should quit drinking. If you're thinking about that, then chances are you probably should.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard one time I was like arguing with one of the older guys in our meeting, and I was like, "But I don't get it. I mean, I did heroin and drugs, and I just turned 24 3 years ago. I was 24, 21 3 years ago. I was like, why would I get sober now? Like, you know what I mean?" And he's like, "Buddy, if you're in an AA meeting and you've only been legally able to drink for 3 years, you failed. You're supposed to be sober. You know, the normal person that doesn't happen to."
100%. And I tell people that, if you're at an AA or an NA meeting or any kind of 12-step fellowship, you've probably already crossed that threshold. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
Uh,
Like, for the most part, normal people don't show up to those unless if they're like a doctor that's trying to go to an open meeting, which is a meeting that's open to people that are non-alcoholics or non-drug addicts, trying to figure out what the big deal is and if they should be referring people to these programs. Besides that, normal people don't show up except for maybe wives or something, or husbands on anniversaries. So, if you're at a meeting, there's a good chance that you've probably got a problem of some sort.
the
And I'm an addict straight through and through. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and pretty much everything that makes me feel good I want to do until it doesn't like work anymore, and then I'll find something else. I'm like that with food. I'm like that
the
with fitness. I can be like that with gambling. Thankfully, I haven't had the gambling bug bite me. I'm pretty good at the handful of times a year that I might find myself at a casino pulling out $40 and keeping it $40. But I definitely I know I like the way that it makes me feel, and that's something where it's like, okay, that's I'm a little bit wired differently than most people, I think. And you know, if you're watching this podcast, chances are you've probably got a similar wiring to me. Otherwise you wouldn't be watching this podcast. It's one of those things.
uh, Definitely no. That's a good point
But
to transfer into. What do you? Sorry, what were you saying? My bad. We go.
no, you're good, man. Keep going.
Oh, what? So when you talk about that, what was it like when you started using? What was the kind of red flags, or what did you use first? You know what I mean? Your
You
transition
know,
into addiction.
I would actually put it before that. Um, I would say that the first thing that I was ever addictive about was music.
Mhm.
Um, it's something that I'm still very much, it's my first love, and it's something that, I mean, literally you can see I've got a guitar in the frame. Like if I turn this around, you'll see that I've just like got music equipment strewn all over this room.
Uh,
But, I think that most people find music at a young age and they're like, this is awesome. I'm going to go find artists that I like and stuff like that. I found music when I was 4, and I was like, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it immediately became about like, what songs can I find, artists that I can find, all of this stuff. And like, I begged my parents for a guitar and I started playing guitar at 6. And I'd practice, I mean, all the way up till now. I mean, I don't practice 8 hours a day anymore, but that's what I was doing, 8 hours a day, you
Yeah.
know, which is not healthy. But it was a love, and it is still a love, and I've been blessed that I've been able to do something with that. But that was definitely, like, looking back on it, like, somewhat of a red flag of, hey, this kid obsesses,
Mm.
you know, because that's really what it is, right? It's a mental obsession, and I've always had anxiety and depression my whole life. I actually have a tattoo on my chest that says "Born Miserable" with a little frowny face because I was not a happy kid.
Mm.
Um, and I felt different growing up. I did. So, when I got to high school, it was like, I think it was literally my first week into freshman year that I smoked weed for the first time. And the I think most people have that feeling of, oh, this is fun. Like, I'm hanging out with my friends, like, this is something cool, new, and exciting. But I had something very different. I had a distinct, I remember this I had a distinct thought of, this is what normal people must feel like all the time,
Mm.
and it was, for me, it was never about the party. I'd lie to you and tell you it was about the party. But for me, you know, at first, the problem is that drugs and alcohol were my solution for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, that nobody starts it because it's a problem. Everybody starts it because it's a solution, and then it stops working. You know?
Yeah.
Um, and for me, it was like, oh, I can talk to girls. I feel more confident. My anxiety is gone for the first time in my life.
Mm.
And for me, it was not this thing of like, oh, I'm going to get messed up on the weekends. It's, I need to do this every day. Immediately, I had that. It was like, if I just do this every day, then I'll feel like this all the time.
Mm.
And, that's why my stuff progressed a lot quicker because, by the end of freshman year, I mean, I had already tried Adderall and Vicodin and stuff like that. I tried cocaine sophomore year, loved cocaine, and tried heroin junior year, you know. So by the time that I had already, like, I graduated high school by the skin of my teeth, but by the time I graduated, I was already a year into a heroin addiction,
Yeah.
um, which is crazy. Actually, it's funny because I started heroin my junior year, and this is such an alcoholic addict thing, where I decided senior year, I was like, okay, maybe the heroin's a little bit much. So I'm going to go back to Vicodin and Adderall to make sure that I graduate,
Yeah.
um, because at least I can maintain on that. Because again, I was looking for a solution. It was not that I was looking for a problem. And, after I graduated, that's when I went back to heroin and stuff. And then it became harder stuff like crack cocaine too. But, it was when I started, it was a feeling of relief, and that's what sobriety and living clean gives me now is a feeling of relief, you know, through fitness and self help and working on myself and doing my music and stuff like that, prayer, meditation, um, the 12 steps. I'm trying to be careful about what I say on here about AA and NA and all of that stuff because I do belong to a 12 step organization, but traditions say that I can't say which one. And so, that's a part of my story, and know that that's something that I do attend. And I can say meetings, but I can't say, AA or NA or stuff like that. But yeah, it's a big part of my life. Um,
Mm.
so
So,
that's like, as far as starting young, to answer your original question, it was, yeah, it was purely to try and self-regulate myself. And that's why I loved uppers and downers because I was like, okay, well, I'm feeling down, let's go up. I'm feeling up, let's go down. It was about trying to play chemist, you know?
yeah. No, I think that's big to be open. I always try to be open with that too. That some people like to come off, or even that they're just ignorant to addiction. They think it's the party life, but it's really we're trying to medicate something, whether it's insecurities, mental health, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? And just feeling alone. I think that's so important to talk about. Is just yeah, there were fun times, but I wasn't just doing it to live like a rock star, my life's a music video. That was our way of escape, what we were struggling with.
100%. And I think it's important to say that there were fun times,
Yeah,
because I think that people have this illusion that like the moment that you pick it up, it's hell, and that's not the case. It's the beginning is fun. If it wasn't fun, nobody would do it.
exactly.
Um, it's the stuff after where it brings intense misery, and it wasn't my life wasn't working. I wasn't working. I was a step away from death, and it wasn't just fun anymore. It was an actual curse, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of it, and it was the scariest thing I've gone through in my entire life. you know
That's a perfect way to lead right into before we get into a little bit of the sobriety aspect and where you're at today. How would you explain your rock bottom, or how was what was your final straw where you're like, all right, it's time to give the sobriety a chance.
I was 19. I was bouncing in and out of rehabs and being homeless. And I was renting out my car. And I was living at a trap house, and I got a call at like 1 in the morning, which is like, it was weird. Not that somebody was calling me at 1 in the morning, but it was weird that somebody was calling me because nobody was calling me
Yeah.
at and it was this like guy. I wouldn't even call him a friend. It was like somebody that I knew, and he was like, "Hey, is that your car outside?" And keep in mind, I was like renting my car, and I was like, I mean, I don't know. It might be, I don't know where my car is right now. And he was like, "No, you're staying at blah 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 street, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, come outside. Your car got hit by a semi."
Okay.
And fuck. So I went outside, and there's the drug dealer, and he's sobbing his eyes out. The car is just insane. It's totaled, without beyond a doubt. And his girlfriend was being wheeled into an ambulance, and it was like, wow, okay. So I talked to the officer, and he told me, I was 19, so the car was still in my dad's name. And he told me that I could tell my dad myself in the morning, and that to me was my higher power working through my life, because I got to tell him myself, and I got to hear from him. You know, he said, "You're dead to me. I've already planned your funeral because it's too painful watching you live like this," and all of this stuff. And then he said, "Well, you better get some help because I can't help you." And he hung up on me. My own father hung up on me. And, I called the rehab that day, and I actually went and I detoxed there. And I had nothing. I had no form of income. Like, I was miserable. My entire family let me go. Um, it was just, I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and at some of the rehabs prior, I had played with the idea of getting sober, but for the most of the time, I had used those rehabs as sort of like bed and breakfasts. It was like, okay, this is a place that I can go to where I can chill out for 2, 3 weeks, get my energy back, um, get my health back so I can go out rip and running. And, I think there was a nagging voice in my ear, which I think was my higher power, that was kind of going, "Hey, maybe this isn't all there is, and maybe there's more for you to get out there and experience."
Mhm.
So it was, I'd say it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, but it's the best thing that I've ever done. And I'm grateful for it every day, and I thank my higher power for it every day.
Mm. Yeah, that's a deep. That's it. that's a deep story. It's amazing even for me to think back being 19 and those. I mean, I had my own too, but you know, definitely we escalated quickly. So it's amazing to think where we were today. Or where we were then, how we got here today. And what do you think at that point? What did getting sober look like for you? Or why do you think what really worked this time?
Full disclosure, 12
Yeah,
steps. That's it.
yeah, love it.
Like, if you're thinking about getting sober, find a 12-step fellowship that identifies with your problem. Go do your 12 steps. It's just that simple. I think people make a big like thing out of being like, I mean, everybody has their own way of finding things that work. I work in the music industry, as John knows, so I see a lot of people that there's a running joke in the industry that's like, okay, you're a musician. Are you active or are you sober?
Yeah,
Because believe it or not, who would have thought that industry is exactly what you think it is, and it's rampant. So I know people that just smoke weed,
yeah.
which it good for them. I can't do that. I know people that are on MAT, which is like methadone and Suboxone and stuff like that. Good for them. Whatever works for you works for you. For me, it was exclusively the 12 steps that worked. And I think people make a bigger deal out of trying to find alternative routes than they should when they could just give it an honest shot and see how it goes. The nice thing about 12 step fellowships is that they give you a program for living. So, like, whatever your problem is, that's just the first step. The 11 steps after that are all about how can I be a better person?
Mm.
You know, um, you wouldn't have wanted to interview me 6 years ago. I was not a good person. I think that inherently, it's funny because I think in early sobriety, you have this feeling of, oh, I owe everybody everything, you know, like I've done so much damage. And I remember thinking in early sobriety, I'm inherently a bad person
Mm.
and I'm trying to be good. And that has changed. I don't think that I think I am inherently a good person. Um, and I made some really bad decisions because I have a problem. I have an illness. But I've owned those choices and I don't owe anybody anything today because I've made amends. You know, I've shown that I can live sober. I don't owe anybody anything. And I built my life up from the ground up without borrowing money, without taking anything besides spiritual help and guidance. And because of that, I quite literally don't owe anybody anything except for a handful of credit cards. But listen, I live in America. I mean, who doesn't owe something on credit
Yeah,
card? You know what I mean?
the
So it's one of those things where I do think that I'm inherently a good person, and I think most people are. I think most people are born inherently good. I would say 99% of people are. I think that the reason why I leave out that 1% is for people like Hitler. Like, I don't think Hitler was born inherently good. I'm still working on acceptance of stuff like that. I
uh,
don't think that that was a circumstantial thing. I think the guy just had it in him, you know? um,
who
you know,
knows? Yeah,
but I think most people are inherently good. And I think that the 12 steps just gives you a manual to show you how to behave and unlearn all that conditioning, you know?
yeah. I think that's like it's funny you said that about other people trying not trying AA, and the effort they put in. It's like that's been a motto for my last couple of months of helping people. It's like people reach out, hey, I need some help, or my brother or son, whatever needs help. I'm like, all right. What worked for me was 12 steps, sponsor steps, and you go to meetings and you work on yourself. And the answers I get, the effort people go to the lengths. It's like, what about methadone? What about, have you heard of smart recovery? I'm like, therapists that only drink wine. It's like, what if you just tried this? It doesn't work. Sure, go do all the other things. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't judge anyone's recovery, but it's amazing. There's like this stigma against 12 step things that it's like, it's so more simple than anyone thinks. And I think they
they're a
believe
cult.
harder, you know?
They're a cult. They're going to talk about God. Um,
Yeah.
if you took half the effort that you put into avoiding the 12 steps and put it in the 12 steps, you'd be a smashing success.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's why I tell people, just go. Like, it's not a subscription. You go once, you don't like it, don't go again. But why don't you just,
Yeah,
the effort you put into Google and 900 other ways people came up with to get sober, why don't you try this the main way since like the 1930s, you know? Just give it a
that's the
shot.
thing. Is it's like, everybody's, I think that a lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody, but I think that a lot of people that have this problem that we all share suffer from a delusional case of terminal uniqueness.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not, that's not the case. I'm not special. I'm really not, and I think, I know for me, I did try when, I was bouncing back and forth from rehab to rehab. I avoided AA as best as I could, and NA and other 12 step fellowships, because I didn't like the idea of God. I was angry at God. Um, I didn't like the idea of like some smiley 50-year-old guy being like, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my dad's been a member of a 12-step fellowship my entire life. So it's one of those things where it's like I feel that there was almost a part of me personally that was like, well, if I go to this, then that means I'm just like my dad, which is funny because my dad's like one of the best dudes I've ever met.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I mean, my dad,
He's a man.
uh, he's the man, so I
Yeah.
don't know what the hesitation was there, but 19-year-old me trying to be unique once again, we're not unique, we're not special, you know, I'm just another bozo on the bus, and I'm just doing my best to wrestle some sort of serenity out of this world, By the way, I should say anything remotely intelligent that I say on this podcast was 1000% stolen from everybody else. So don't think that I'm anybody.
Yeah. I love that
you
when
know,
people always stop me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, your post, the thing you said." I'm like, 90% of it was just things I picked up along the way. Even my whole book is like, it's my experience, but it's also just things I learned from other people. You pass it along.
oh
A
yeah,
good thing is like now that you've made it and we went through all that, I'd love to hear, and I want you to kind of put your own plug in for everything, and I'll hear where you're at today to inspire
for
maybe
sure.
someone listening that's struggling. What are the blessings of your sobriety and where you're at today?
It's been cool to say the least. That's like such a understatement. It's been cool.
Yeah,
Um, my life is pretty sick. Um, Most people that I know that make it this far have pretty crazy lives, myself included. I play music professionally now, which is awesome. I get to tour. I've traveled a lot of the world, not all of the world, but a lot of it. I'm signed to a record label. But all this stuff didn't just like happen the moment that I got like sober. I think that like, well, no, I know because they did a study that people that have addiction problems and people that have depression and anxiety tend to have, on average, higher IQs than the rest of the population. And that's not to say that I have a high IQ by any means. But I think that when you have idle hands and all of a sudden, well, it's like, okay, well, I can't numb anymore. You force yourself to make your life get better. Whether that's a subconsciously thing or see, I'm stupid, subconsciously, whether that's a subconscious thing, you know, or, a conscious thing. But my life is awesome. I mean, I've been to almost all the major cities in the US playing music, which is great. On the side, I own a company. I'm a CEO at 25, which is crazy. And it does well. I mean, to the point where I don't have to work a day job. So I'm literally just doing that and playing music all day, which is great. Um, it was. a lot of work to get here. I mean, when I was getting my own company off the ground, which like I started in early sobriety, I was working a day job at a corporate place. And I was working 70 hours a week while doing a band up on the side, um, which is absolute insanity looking back on it. I don't know how I did it. Um, you know, it's been cool. I've had relationships in sobriety. I have a beautiful girlfriend now. Life happens, you know, um, and it only seems to get better, and I'm on this track right now where like we'll see what happens. But like I always say that 15-year-old me, you've heard me tell you this too, is
Yeah.
15-year-old me, if he could see the things that 25-year-old complains about, he would punch me in the face and say, dude, you got everything you wanted. Why are you bitching? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's crazy, the things I complain about. Oh, my record label is doing. It's like, dude, you're on a record label. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like crazy to me. And I've been blessed. I really have. I have a beautiful family that have taken me back into their lives. Um, I have a successful company. I have a band that's on the up and up right now. We're called Rushing Spring. Shameless self plug right there.
I was gonna
Um,
ask you to put it in anyways.
yeah, yeah.
No, good, good. And what's your newest song out right now?
Gotcha. Yeah, it just said 5 4 3 2 1 when somebody was calling me, so I'm not sure if it
Oh,
got
okay.
cut off for a second, but I'm back now.
Okay.
But no, what I was saying is we just dropped a song. It's called Your Touch. There's a music video. It's on our labels. We Are Triumphant's YouTube. Go check it out. My beautiful, beautiful girlfriend, Haruka Yamakawa, directed it for us, and she absolutely murdered it. We have a new song that's dropping March 8th. It's called A Girl Like You. Um, you know, it's cool, man. We're releasing all of this stuff, but we've got a brand new EP that nobody knows about yet, that hasn't been announced. So you guys are actually the first people that are hearing about it. That we're recording in March 11th at this place called Nada Recording, and they actually did the first My Chemical Romance record. They've done Imagine Dragons. They've done Knuckle Puck. They've done Bayside. CJ Ramone from the Ramones. So, these are the kind of people I get to work with now, which is just insane. He taught Taylor Swift's producer how to use Pro Tools, the thing that we use to record music. It's like, what a trip, talking to that guy, the amount of stories that he has. So I love making music. I love writing music. It's something that I believe I was born with, just like addiction. I think that you're born a songwriter. And I've been lucky that people like my music and can connect with some of it. And it's been cool. I'm currently in the stages of trying to get myself back into shape for the camera for music videos that we're going to be recording in probably April. Um, so I wanted to talk about this because it does go in line with your brand. Because I do believe that there's also a big connection between the physical aspect of, how I'm feeling to regulate my mood and, my spirituality. So I'm doing a challenge right now. It's called 75 Hard. Um, and it's intense. Um, but I have to, my goal is to cut 20 pounds within the next 75 days. And I've done it before, so I know I can do it. But to give your listeners a breakdown of what that is, it's 45 minutes a day of activity outside, 45 minutes a day at the gym. Pick a diet and stick to it. So I'm doing low carb. And drink a gallon of water a day, and then you can read like 10 pages of a book, or like I changed that to do something musical every day, to keep me motivated. Um, and I'm on day 4 now, I think. No, it might be day 3. I don't know. I should be better about counting since it's a counting challenge. But I've already lost 4 pounds, which is crazy, you know. But I know I'll stick to it. And I think that my sobriety has blessed me with having that stick to itiveness to something. And I know myself well enough to know, and I'm sure that you'll understand this, is like one thing that I hate more than not having to regulate my diet is losing, you know?
Yeah.
I hate losing. So it's like if I set a challenge for myself, I do a lot better in that kind of circumstances than me just being like, well, I'll take it day by day and see where it goes. Cause then there's no stakes, right? And
Yeah.
I'm a high stakes guy. That's who I am,
Yeah. Definitely.
So, you know, it's, yeah, that's like the big news for me is like I'm recording an EP. We're going to be dropping it probably this summer. There's a new EP that is dropping right now. Um, we've got A Girl Like You dropping on March 8th. The rest of the EP drops on April 19th. Um, and I've been blessed. I got the new EP coming out this summer. We'll probably be on the road. You can follow us on Instagram at Rushing Spring, or you can follow my personal on TikTok that I've slowly started to grow. It's at nowhere near the numbers that I need it to be. So if you guys want to help me out, it's just at speakdumb. Is me keeping myself humble.
Easy. Yeah. And also on Spotify, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. On
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you can listen to music, we're there. Um, Give us a listen. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. You might like it, you might not. It's not for everybody. But it makes me happy, and it means a lot when you do. People don't know this, and this is funny, but when you add people to a playlist on Spotify, we can see it. We can see the name of the playlist.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that.
Yeah, I posted about it the other day.
I was cracking up.
Oh my God, somebody named their playlist Whale Pussy and was
Yeah.
streaming on Whale Pussy. And
Yeah,
it's
I was
like,
looking through those.
I mean, I appeal and my music appeals to like a very certain subset of sad teenage girls. So, I
Yeah.
commonly see my songs getting added to exactly unhinged things that a teenage girl would name their playlist.
Yeah. But it is good. I mean, I don't. That's not even my favorite genre of music. I'm a lot into R&B, rap, country, but it is good because even me, it's. I mean, even the stuff you had out in the beginning, I listened to a lot, and even I enjoy listening to it now. So I think that's cool that it's a type of music anyone could listen to. You know what I mean?
For sure. It's definitely it's growing in popularity, that kind of indie rock thing. I know that rock is on the come up right now, believe it or not. If you look at trends on Spotify, I was watching a Rick Beato video, who's like an industry guy on YouTube about this, but rock is more popular on Spotify right now than, don't quote me on this because I could be saying it wrong, than like
Mm.
even like rap and stuff like that. It's actually like the last year it's like skyrocketed through. So, hopefully things line up and this is my time,
Yeah,
you know. Um,
definitely.
but it's, yeah, man. I mean, my life is good. Everything is good. I'm moving forward. My goal is that as time goes on, more and more people listen to my music and, more and more people like it. So I don't know. It's cool because I always say that I would be writing whether or not anybody was listening because I do it for me. So it's just a bonus that people do listen, and it's very much a spiritual thing. Our biggest song to date, Your Touch, um, I wrote that about an ex girlfriend and I wrote it in 10 minutes. And sometimes the songs you write in 10 minutes are better than the songs that you spend, 3 months workshopping because it's just honest and it's from the heart.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's definitely been a cool thing for me, and it's definitely been a journey of growth and just constantly being like, how can I be better in every single way? And I think that goes in line with your brand, because it's for me, it's like, how can I look better physically, right? You know, I'm in my fat era right now. It may not look like it from the camera, but I am in my fat era
No.
because I was writing an EP and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna eat fucking a whole pan of lasagna and just say fuck it. But it was intentional. It was intentional
Uh,
because I was like, I'm gonna do what's comfortable while I isolate in my room and write this for 3 months. But you know, how can I feel better and look better physically? How can I do better mentally? And that's through therapy and, you know, 12-step meetings and reaching out to people who have the same problems as me, maintaining healthy relationships with people and healthy boundaries. And how can I get better spiritually, you know, which is, again, you know, the 12-step meetings as well as, you know, prayer and meditation and asking for help. And you know, I know you've championed the spiritual bank account, which you credited me with, and I can't
oh,
take credit for that. That was my sponsor prior, but that is like a very strong concept for me. Is like, if I'm not adding into this, there's a cost just to exist that I'm being drained of, and I have to keep adding into it, you know. And it could be something really simple. You know, I've been breaking it down even further recently. I haven't really been able to talk to you about this, but you know, it could be as simple as paying a compliment to somebody. You know, I'm covered in tattoos. There was a guy that was at the gym yesterday who had tattoos I really liked, and I was like, I like your tattoos, you know? And he was like, hey, thanks, buddy, you know? And like maybe that didn't mean anything, but maybe that made him feel good for the day, you know?
good. Important.
And it's just like progress starts small, you know? Do
Definitely. What So yeah, everyone definitely check Austin out. Check his band out and help him grow his TikTok.
yeah, help me
Um,
grow my TikTok because I'm struggling and I have industry people that are being like, you need to fix this.
yeah, no, we're working on it. We'll get it there. I thank you, man. I mean, you've been a huge pivotal point in my whole life in my sobriety. You know, I thank you for also coming on, obviously, to share your experience, strength, and hope. I think a lot of people, and especially young people, you know, maybe around even, I mean, anyone can get a lot out of this, but I think that's so crucial because how many people wait till they're 50 or 60 because they don't think it's possible. So a lot of people that hear this will hear your story young will think maybe, oh, I can do it too. And, you know, if you can, you've come this far, you know what I mean? Imagine how far they can come. Um, last thing I want to ask on every podcast is, it could be sobriety, not sobriety. One thing you could pass along, it's the best piece of advice that either you've heard, if not best, the one that you hold closest to your heart day to day.
Oh, God, you're putting me on the spot.
That's a tough one. Even
Trust your
if it's
gut.
simple, just what, whether it's your motto, best piece of advice.
Yes, trust your gut.
That's your God.
100% trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it definitely is. Um, you know, you have like we talk about this idea of like a sixth sense, right? Because our five senses, it's what smell, eyesight, you know, hearing, touch. I'm missing one, taste, right? There is a sixth sense. It's your gut. Proven that, and it's that feeling of, oh, something's wrong here. If you feel that way, it's not your anxiety. Trust me, it's not your anxiety. It's your gut saying, hey, there's something wrong here and we need to fix it. And focus really hard on figuring out what that feeling is, you know, and how to identify it. So when it does pop up and something does pop up, you know, it's your time to get out, you know? And trust your gut. If something feels right, not if you want it to be right. If something feels right, then it probably is. Um, you know, and that's something that took me years to learn. It's something that I'm glad I figured out young, though, and it is something that is directly responsible for any success that I've had. Is just completely trusting my gut. Um, don't trust your head, trust your gut, is what I'll say.
Appreciate it, love it. And is there anything that you wanted to add or leave off with here?
Um,
Other than that,
I would say that anybody that's watching this that is struggling, I'm not special. John, while he might like to think it, is also not special.
not special.
Yeah, sure.
But,
You know, uh, yeah. I'm gonna have you inventory that, but
yeah,
neither of us are special, and actually, I would say we are below average when it comes to specialness. So if we can do it, you definitely can because you probably are better than us.
I think that's
But
huge. That's important.
if you want it, you can go get it. And try to do something that is selfless every day. Like I'll give you the sauce right now before I leave. For anybody that's watching this, I'll give you the straight
Okay.
sauce. Work on yourself physically, see a therapist, work on yourself emotionally, find people that have the same problem that you do that you can talk to and figure out what they did, and do something for yourself every day and do something for someone else every day and expect nothing in return. The selflessness is what will get you far. Be selfishly selfless. Do it for yourself. Help somebody else. And that's what I'll end on.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. No, love you. Appreciate you coming on. Everyone, check out Russian Spring everywhere they are. Austin, thank you for everyone listening. We love you. You're not alone. Ask for help. The help is there if you're willing to take it. And God bless. Thank you, man, for coming on. Can't
No
wait to talk to you
problem.
again.
Love you too, brother. Have a good night.
Appreciate you, man.